Here's an example of where you're forced to use that one-step method. And remember, last time we were using 1 minus R. This time we're going to be using 1 plus R. When you have an increase of stock by 7%, last time we took her money and we decreased it by 82%. This time we're increasing. So instead of using 1 minus R, I'm going to be using 1 plus R. So the other thing about this question number 4, and I hope you've tried it already, the other thing is it starts with this letter D. They don't like to give you the starting point. So hey, let's use the number picking strategy. Let's pick our own number for D, and then we'll plug that same number into all these options at the end. So I love to pick 100. I think when you're taking a percentage, that's always the easiest number to take a percentage of. So let's make that assumption at the beginning that D is $100. That's not anywhere in the question. We just picked that on our own. Okay, and now we're going to take that and we're going to increase it by 7%. We're going to use that 1 plus R formula. So that means you're going to take the 100 and you're going to multiply it by 1.07. Okay, the 1 plus is why there's a 1 in the front, and 0.7 for 7%. Don't multiply by 1.7, that would be 70%. We're only using 7%. And I can do this one in my head. I know that's 107. You can put in your calculator if you need to. Now we're going to increase that by an additional 15%. So you're going to start with this 107 and multiply that by 1.15. And that's going to be 107 times 1.15. That one I can't do in my head. 123.05. And so now we know the answer. The answer is $123.05, but it certainly doesn't look like any of the questions. What we're going to do is take that 100 that we just calculated, that we picked, plug it in for D, and we're going to find out which one matches. Which of these answers also gives us 123.05. So 100 divided by 0.07 and 0.15. 100 times 1.07 times 1.15. 100 divided by 1.07 and 1.15. And 100 times 0.93 and 0.85. And you go ahead, take a minute to plug all of these into your calculator. I did that in advance, and I know that option D will give me exactly 123.05. And all the other options will give me different answers. So B is going to be the correct answer. Keep in mind, like if you did A, and you get like 9,000 and something, A is definitely not the right answer. You try B and you get 123.05. It is still a good idea. Even though you really like B as your right answer, it's still a good idea to try the last two options, because there is a possibility a second option will also give you $123.05. It does not happen in this question, but if it were to happen, you'd have to go back and pick a new number. I'd like to say one other thing about number picking, and that is number picking is not always the fastest answer. Sometimes having that understanding of the question is far better than number picking. If you have it, if you don't, so what you really want number picking for, that's like the option you have when you don't read the question and have that leap of intuition that tells you the answer. If you're missing that leap of intuition, do the number picking. It'll get you there in smaller steps. However, there was a way to do this. If you'll notice, we took this 100, we multiplied it by 1.07, and then we multiplied that product by 1.15. We did exactly these steps, all right, except we have a D there instead of 100. If you were to read the question carefully and understand your one-step method really well, you could see that B is the one that follows the correct steps and immediately answer B just from a deep understanding of that one-step method instead of from the number picking. It's up to you which one you're more comfortable with. I'll tell you, you have 1.4 minutes per question on the SAT. Doing the number picking method, which took a little bit more time, Still did not take 1.4 minutes, so you are going to finish the test with a comfortable amount of time, whichever method you use. All right, the last question here is a little bit more challenging, and what I want to do is just show you, if you haven't found it already, in the appendix of this course we have, it's called the Ultimate Formula Sheet. And I want you to use a formula from that formula sheet here. So here it is, the Ultimate Formula Sheet is actually 4 pages. It has every single formula you need to know for the SAT. Print it out, study it. If there's anything on there you're not familiar with, put a big star next to it and go seek out some examples that help you get better at that. This is a great resource for you. I hope that I hope it serves you well. The formula from this sheet that I want to use is this one here. This is actually compounding interest, like if you put money in the bank, but it can be used for other things that are growing. For instance, if a population of bacteria is growing, or let's say there's a small town that's growing by 2% every decade, you can use this formula for that as well. If something's getting smaller, you can use this. Only thing is you have to change the plus to a minus. So if the population of the small town is actually decreasing, change that plus to a minus, you can still use this formula. Let me make sure that you know what everything on here means. So A is like the current amount. P is for principal. That doesn't really make much sense in this question that we're about to do because it's not about money. Principal is the amount of money that you start a bank account with. So in our case, we're just going to use that for starting amount. R is the annual rate in decimal form. And N is, if you are not compounding once per year, then N would be the number of times per year you are compounding. And is mentioned up here too, compounded N times per year. In the simpler question, if you're just compounding once per year, you can use this formula here. There's no N in it. But in our question, we're actually going to have compounded once every 20 years. And I'll show you in the words of the question how that works out. So our N value is going to end up being 1 over 20 because we're not compounding it 20 times a year. We're compounding it once every 20 years. So every year is like 1/20th of the way to getting compounded.